We have a special guest with us here today. He's a 2019 graduate of University Heights Academy, currently attending Mississippi State. And I guess the thing that we want him to talk a little bit about is not only academics, but if he'll hold up that ring he's got, that's a national championship ring, the NCAA Division I. To my knowledge, and I haven't been at University Heights all that long, but he's the only national championship student athlete that we've had here. We've had people that play in the NBA, we've had people that play in college, but as far as just winning a national championship, Drew is and as a former coach, I know how hard it is to win a game, much less win an entire national championship. So he's got a couple of opening comments he's going to give to you. Then we're going to take questions, and we encourage, if you have a question about what's going on in Drew's world there at Mississippi State, then we've got a microphone. He can answer your questions. So at this time, Drew, I'll turn it over to you for your opening statements.
Hey guys, it's good to be back. Due to COVID and everything, I haven't really been able to have the chance to come back and see everybody. I've been gone for pretty much a year and a half straight. You know, we were playing all spring and summer, and you know, most kids get the opportunity to have a summer break. Well, I didn't even come home until the second week in July, and then we got to be back in August ready to go again. So, you know, I hadn't really gotten the chance to come back, say hi to everybody, tell them thank you for everything they did for me. But it's good to have that opportunity now. And like Coach Sparks said, I was a 2019 graduate. I started coming to school here when I was in kindergarten, stayed the entire time, had my mom in class, had a bunch of other people in class. You know, there aren't many kids that can say that their mom was one of their teachers. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was here the whole time. I played basketball and baseball, for those of you who don't know me. I was lucky enough to earn a scholarship to go play baseball at Mississippi State University, and I was also very lucky to be able to have the chance to go here and learn from teachers and everybody around here, everything I know. And, you know, they taught me what it takes to succeed, and I'm very thankful for that, especially when, you know, I see some teammates who didn't come from environments like this that, you know, might not be as successful in the classroom. You know, you can succeed on the field without really having a good school environment, but it's really tough to come from a school that doesn't really care how you do in the classroom, and then when you get to college, you know, you're kind of on your own. You know, we're lucky enough to have people that in the baseball team that have people that help us out. You know, they make sure we stay on top of everything, but it's still tough. You're living by yourself for the first time. It's really hard to keep your time under control. You know, it tends to spiral if you don't stay organized, and that's something you learn from the teachers here are really good at teaching you all that stuff. So I was very lucky to have that, and it was kind of a smooth transition for me once I got to college, a lot smoother than maybe some of my my teammates and classmates that I've met since I've been there. So like I said, I'm very fortunate to have come from a place like here, and you know, everything that they tell you is pretty much true. It's not, you know, they say when you get to college, you know, you might have a 2-hour day. Well, that's not really the case, especially for someone like me who's got a full schedule. You know, my freshman year especially, I'd have class at 8 a.m. until lunch maybe, and then as soon as lunch is over, I get to grab something to eat. I'm right to the field to practice until 6. Then we got study hall 7 to 9. You know, it's a full day. I don't really have to do all that anymore because I've kind of graduated from some of those things that I had to do. I kind of proved that I can take care of my business. So the coaches and tutors and everything trust me a little more now. But, you know, that's something you got to earn, and you earn that freshman year. So, you know, people, even in high school, you get to freshman year and you think, oh, it doesn't matter, I've got so much longer. Well, they start calculating your GPA as soon as you get into high school, and you get scholarships from that. And that's one thing I was lucky enough to do, is make good enough grades to where I had scholarships, because especially in the sport that I play in baseball, they can't give a full scholarship to every player. So especially me going out of state, I didn't have my full scholarship from baseball. And I was lucky enough, like I said, to make good enough grades the whole time to where I could cover the rest of it, to where my parents and myself don't really have to worry about paying off a bunch of money when I get out of school. So that's a blessing. Like I said, I owe a lot to this school for all the opportunities and everything I learned while I was here.
Thank you. He almost answered my first question, so I'm still gonna ask him to go through this again. He did say, and he's pursuing a double major while we're here. What was the two?
I'm doing accounting and finance.
Well, that leaves me out. I'll tell you that. I can't spell two of them. Anyway, he has a full day, and I was going to ask him before we take questions from people to kind of script through a normal day, because most people think being a scholarship athlete is all fun and games. But will you go back and just take us through? You wake up, and then when he says he has to go, that freshman year, these were required things he had to do, and not just class, but I'm sure there was several other things as he goes through there. And if you could just give us, by the time you wake up, I don't know, did you have a curfew the night before? During the season, probably there is one. But if you'll do that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so like Coach Sparks said, people tend to think when you sign your NLI as a student athlete that when you get to college, everything's going to be taken care of for you and it's going to be all fun and games. You only have to show up to practice and the games and perform or whatever. But especially for the program that I play for, my coach came from a military school, so he is very disciplinary, rule-oriented. Everything is mandatory, punishments if you don't go. So freshman year, like I said, I had class, which I didn't have class from 8 to noon every day, but I pretty much had class from 8 a.m., which is the first class that colleges have, to lunch just about every day. So I'm waking up at 7:15, grabbing breakfast, heading to class. By the way, if you miss class, you get a punishment. You find yourself cleaning the golf carts, cleaning the weight rooms, stuff like that. So it's something I try to stay away from. And get out of class. A lot of times I'd head over to the Templeton, which is our athletic academic center. It's lucky for us, it's kind of right by the baseball field, so I'd grab lunch there, head to the baseball field. We have practice at 2 o'clock every day. Early work starts at 1, which they say it's optional. It's not really optional if you're wanting to be on the field. So most everybody's there ready to go by 1 o'clock. We usually practice for 3.5 hours, done about anywhere between 5 and 6, really. And then, we practice for about 3 hours on the field as far as baseball stuff goes. And then we're in the weight room for an hour after that. So we're usually done with baseball activities at 6 o'clock, and study hall started at 7. So we'd have study hall 3 days a week from 7 to 9. And then our advisor is pretty lenient. If you have your stuff done, she'll let you leave early. But if your grades aren't what they're supposed to be, then you're going to be in there the whole time. So it was pretty important to me to stay on top of that because I wasn't much a fan of staying in there for the whole 2 hours. I'd find time in the day to get my stuff done because I work better on my own time than I do when somebody's telling me what I need to be doing. I don't respond very well to that. So I was usually trying to get out of there by 8 o'clock, going and eating something for dinner and heading to bed and ready to get up and do it all over again. So, there's a lot of long days that don't even include games that people may not realize that go into a championship season like we were able to have last year.
Thank you. I'm not a very good, I don't add things up very well, but that ended up being, as I was going through it, a 13 and 14-hour day every day. And as he said, that doesn't include games where you get, if they travel by bus and getting home, perhaps getting home by, 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and then still being required to get up and do those things. So I guess the next question that I have is, and you answered that very well, was, did you feel UHA prepared you to go? You don't have to redo it. We're just, it's amazing as I talk to athletes that have come and gone, or even students that they say that one of the main things is that they're ready, to participate in college academics, because without the academics, it's just like in high school, you're not eligible to play. And if you're not eligible to play, you will not, you won't keep that scholarship very long. So at this time, is there anybody that has a question of Drew? Whether it's about baseball or whether it's about academics? AB up here, have we got the microphone, or can you just holler it out?
Mm-hmm. No, nothing like that. I'd say the biggest thing. Okay, well, for those that didn't hear, she asked me some obstacles I faced kind of transitioning from high school to college and moving away from home and that type of thing. So, I don't know, I'd say the biggest thing really is, being away from home for the first time. You don't have your mom and dad in the same house. You're responsible for yourself. You got to wake up to your own alarm every morning. You got to be responsible enough to take care of your business on your own. I'd say I'm lucky that I'm a student athlete because I have people there that will look out for me a little bit too. I have coaches and advisors, and I live with my teammates, so we all kind of have the same agenda every day. So I'm lucky to have that. But for normal students that aren't with a sports team or anything like that, you're kind of by yourself when you first get there. You may be living with a friend that you knew from home or something like that. But the biggest thing, is being able to manage your time and manage your responsibilities on your own without having the help of your parents.
Thank you. Shoot. Thank you. We've got another question.
Was it crazy in high school?
I'd say it's more crazy in college than it is in high school, definitely. But, being here, I'd say at UHA, it's not as crazy as it could be other places. It's very organized here. Everybody's pretty disciplined. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do and what's expected of them. So I'd say it's definitely a bigger jump going from high school to college than it is middle school to high school.
Thank you. Hang on a minute. They've given a microphone to my granddaughter. This could be good.
It's a good one. Was it hard to make friends?
Well, kind of something I hit on a minute ago. Yeah, that is a good question. Kind of something I hit on a minute ago. Like I said, I'm very lucky to be able to play for a sports team where, making friends is kind of something that comes with being on the team. So I never really had to go out and try to make friends because, I'm with the baseball team, like Coach Sparks said, maybe 14 hours a day, pretty much every day of the year. And then freshman year, I lived, within 2 or 3 doors in a dorm of every freshman on the team. So even when we're not at the field, we're really always all together. And now I live in a house with 3 of my teammates who are my best friends. So, baseball kind of made friends for me. And then as far as friends that I have outside of baseball, you just can't be scared to go out and try to make friends with people because you're not going to make them staying in and not in your dorm or apartment or wherever you live and not doing anything. And I'd say college won't be the same if you don't have friends that you can enjoy it with. So.
Yeah, I agree with Drew. When you go as an athlete, in most cases, you're with other athletes, so it is easier to make friends at that particular time. If you're going as a regular student, then you do have to kind of push the envelope and push yourself to go out and make friends. But it's not that hard. It will happen. We've got Mr. Staley. Oh, wait, got another one right over here.
How did it feel knowing that you were playing in front of over 15,000 people?
The first time... The first couple of times, I'd say it's definitely nerve-wracking to run out from the locker room through the dugout and look and see a packed house. I obviously played in front of crowds. I was lucky enough my junior year in high school to go to the state tournament and play in Rupp Arena where we were playing in probably 8,000 to 10,000, which at the time, that was the biggest crowd I'd ever played in front of. But now, where at Mississippi State, baseball is the biggest sport on campus, and we have the biggest stadium in the country. And 8,000 to 10,000 is just an average crowd for us. So it's definitely nerve-wracking the first few times, but then, you realize the fans are on your side, they're cheering for you, and they want you to do well. So you kind of embrace the pressure and you enjoy it. It's definitely more fun when we play at home in front of our big crowds than it is when we go on the road and play in front of smaller crowds. So, I enjoy it. I know my teammates enjoy it, but you got to be able to embrace the pressure and know that they're on your side. So.
What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subject, I don't know. I'd say when I was in high school, my favorite subject was probably one of the sciences, either chemistry or biology. But now I haven't taken any of those since I've been to college, so I don't know. I think my favorite class that I've taken in college so far is business law, which I took my freshman spring semester. And I'm in another business law class this coming up semester, so I'm excited about that. But I obviously like my finance and accounting classes. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to school to be. So I've just had so many of those. So it's kind of hard to say that those are my favorite classes because they're all kind of the same. They just build on each other. I like a little something different every now and then.
Stand up.
That's a good question. You kind of have to wake up. Well, this is another thing my coach really pushes on us is to get up early in the morning and get going because like last semester, for example, I didn't have class most days until 11. But if I didn't get up until 10:30 just to go to class, I didn't have that extra couple hours that I would have gotten had I gone ahead and gotten up like I would if I had an 8 a.m. class or a 9 a.m. class. So no matter how nice it is to sleep in sometimes, there are definitely some days where you can sleep in and take a break because in college it's kind of messed up the way it works, but most of the time I'm enrolled in 15 hours every semester, so I have 5 classes. And most of the time you're going to have 4 out of your 5 tests in the same week. So your busiest week you're going to have about one really busy week a month. And the thing that you have to do is, you can't wait and procrastinate to study for those 4 tests that week because you'll never be able to get it all done. There's just not enough time to do it. So you have to kind of space it out through the month or a few weeks or whatever it might be. You just have to have a plan and stick to it and make sure that you're taking advantage of any free time that you have.
We got a question up there, Miss Bradley, right behind you.
The hardest thing I've had to face, I'd say, is, there's a couple things. Like I've kind of mentioned before, I've had to get used to being away from home. Excuse me. As classes have gotten harder, I'll be honest, my freshman year wasn't extremely tough because most of the classes that I took, I had in some form or fashion here. So a lot of it was review. But then sophomore and this year especially, I'm into classes where everything I'm learning is new. So it's harder in those classes where you don't have a real background in the subject to be able to learn that material. And it's another thing being an athlete is you have to learn to respond to failure. Because most of the time when you're signing a scholarship to play at a D1 school, in high school you're not really going through as much adversity as maybe other people are because you're usually the best at your sport in the area. So when you get to college, I'm around 35 or 37 other guys who came from the same position I was, and they're just as good as me, if not better. So, it's tough to face adversity in your sport really for the first time, and how you respond to that is going to tell you how successful you'll be.
Got a question over here.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming, but at the same time, around the same people all the time. But they're going through the same thing that I'm going through, so we have that bond. We know what we're always under pressure, whether it be in the classroom or on the field. So we have that bond. We kind of go through it. We got each other's back. So that's something that definitely helps. And one thing, freshman year, I would say that I was around just baseball players mostly all the time. But one thing I think that's kind of helped me last year and the first half of this year is I've gotten a lot of new friends that aren't baseball players. So, whenever I feel like I need a break to get my mind off of baseball in any way, I can go hang out with my other friends. So just don't make sure you don't have all your friends in one group, because there's always going to be falling outs or something. You don't want to leave yourself to where you don't have anybody else, if something like that were to happen.
Okay, they're afraid to ask, so I'll ask for them. What was it like playing in the World Series in front of that many people and in front of a national audience?
Like I said, it's something that you definitely have to get used to, but lucky for us, we played in front of big crowds all year long, so we obviously got there, and it's a new level of pressure, and everybody's watching on TV. It's aired on ESPN every game, so you got that to think about. But we play in environments all year long, playing in the SEC, where we're going on the road. We're playing in front of over 10,000 people pretty much every weekend, so it's something that we're lucky where we get to prepare all year long for stuff like that. But it's pretty. I was kind of overwhelmed when I came out of the tunnel for the first time, because they said there's going to be so many people there, and you listen, but it doesn't really hit until you see it for yourself. So we ran out, people are flooding in, and I think every game we played there were over 22,000 people in the stadium in Omaha. So it's definitely crazy, and it's a new level of pressure, but at the same time we're prepared for moments like that because we get to play in atmospheres like that all year long.
I think one of the advantages Drew and his teammates have, Mississippi State has one of the largest arenas to play baseball in the country. So they're used to that kind of thing, but it's still, I'm sure, when you walk out, as you say, that tunnel, there they are. So
another thing, I was talking to Coach Sparks yesterday kind of about what I would say. Another thing is when, especially in the last 3 games that we played in the College World Series, we were playing Vanderbilt, and 23,000 people there. My mom would attest to this. I'd say 90% of them at least were wearing maroon or white. They were like, we had probably 20,000 of them were there, had traveled from Mississippi or wherever they might be from, to come cheer for us. So essentially they were 3 home games for us, which is something that few programs can say that their fan bases travel like that. So we're lucky to be able to have that type of fan base too.
there was probably 10,000 more outside that couldn't get in. Mississippi State's fans travel everywhere, basketball, baseball, whatever. Nash, you got a question?
What are your goals for the future?
That's a good question. That's something that I kind of think about a lot. You know, I'd obviously like to pursue a career in baseball if it is presented, but if for some reason it doesn't work out, I feel like I've prepared myself well enough through high school and college to where, you know, I have a backup plan to where I can be just as successful if I decide to go into the workplace as I would be as an athlete.
I got a question over here. Oh, Ms. Staley, you outrank everybody, so go right ahead.
That's a question that I get a lot, especially from people around here, because, you know, my parents went to Kentucky. I'm obviously from here. People always ask why I didn't go to Kentucky or why I didn't go to somewhere closer to home. There's a couple things that go into it. First of all, for whatever reason, I wasn't ever really that interested in going to Kentucky to play baseball, kind of because their program isn't as strong as others. And, you know, it's obviously a basketball school. Their crowds aren't as big. I just felt like if I had the opportunity to go somewhere where baseball was at the forefront, that would be more enjoyable for me in the long run. And then another thing is Kentucky recruited me, but they kind of hopped on the train a little later than some other schools. So, I'm a big advocate of loyalty, and Mississippi State recruited me first. So, I felt like, especially if it was kind of hand in hand, is where I couldn't make a decision. I felt like, Mississippi State showed me attention first. They wanted me first. It was kind of a relationship thing where I trusted them a little more and had built a bit better relationship just because I had been around them longer.
Got another question right here.
Yeah, I'm friends with a couple of them. It's hard for me to stay in touch with all of them because, most of them are going to school so far away. And like I said, I don't really get a summer break where I can come and enjoy the summer with them. Really, the only time I get is about a month home for Christmas, if I get that. So, that's really the only time I see them. So it's hard to stay as close to them as I was when I was in high school. But, I definitely keep up with them as much as I can.
Another question up here.
Do you know any baseball-related jokes?
I do not. I do not. Well, it's funny you asked that because one of the things, like, we've had a lot of questions about the crowds and how you handle the crowds and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that we do as a team before we take the field pregame is we get in our huddle, and most of the fans probably are thinking, that we're saying, like, go out, give it your all, whatever. But we're saying, our captain always says, we're about to do the joke. If you know the answer, don't say anything. And he gives the joke. He gives a joke, and we break it down on the joke. So that's kind of something. They're not always baseball related, but that's kind of something that helps us stay loose and, not let the pressure get to us.
Okay, I see you now. Go ahead.
What do you do on your free time?
On my free time, honestly, I hang out with my friends and watch football and basketball. Really is about it. There's we go to the football games pretty much every time there's a football game. So that's a big entertainment thing. We go out and tailgate, and that's one thing that makes, I think, the baseball team so loved down there is the junction, which is the big field that all the tailgate tents are in and stuff. The baseball players kind of roam around and talk to all the fans and stuff, and we try to be as friendly as possible. So, kind of winning your fans over and giving them back what, they just want to build relationships with us. So we go to football games, we hang out with fans, we hang out with friends, and, just anything that a normal college student would do. I mean, like I said, you have a lot of responsibilities, a few more responsibilities probably as an athlete as a regular student, but that doesn't mean you don't have time to be a regular student as well. There's still time for that. So, I mean, really most of the time, if I have free time, I try to be a regular student. Sometimes that's catching up on schoolwork. Sometimes that's just hanging out if I'm up to date on everything. So it kind of just depends what I have on my plate that week.
Do you have a good luck charm? And if you do, what is it?
Well, I won't say I have a good luck charm as much as a pair of socks or anything like that. But I do keep the same routine every day, especially on game days. We have a very strict schedule. I say I don't have a pair of socks, but I do always wear the same thing for every game, and I put it on in the same order, and I get to the field at the same time. I drink the same energy drink before every game. Baseball players are very superstitious. So, we kind of try to keep our routine. We have, the same meetings, and usually in the meetings, like I said, we have our jokes. We have time where we say what we want to the team. We usually try to say the same thing every game, especially if it's working. We might switch something up if we have a bad series. For example, we played Arkansas at home last year and got swept, and we changed a couple things up after that weekend. So, I'd say it's pretty much sticking to the same routine is what I would consider my good luck charm, more so than like a bracelet or a necklace or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna overrule because I've got a question. I'm all about the bling bling. Could you describe the ring ceremony and what Mississippi State did when they gave? We talked about it yesterday, and it was amazing the things they did. Just run us through the ring ceremony.
Okay, well, I'll start with saying that until June 30th, which is the day that we won the national championship, Mississippi State had never won a team sport national championship. So we were the first one ever for the school. So it kind of was probably a bigger celebration and ceremony than it would have been for, say, another Kentucky basketball national championship. But I'll kind of start with when we won it. So like I said, we had thousands and thousands and thousands of fans in Omaha with us. You know, we obviously had our on-field celebrations. They presented us with the trophy, T-shirts, hats, all that stuff that you always see, confetti. And then, you know, we load the bus and we drive back to our hotel. And, man, we get back to our hotel and we can't even walk in the lobby because all the fans are in there. I'm sure my mom was in there somewhere, but I had to tell them to come up to my hotel room because I couldn't find them through the crowd. So the fans were there ready to celebrate with us as soon as we got back. We had a little party there in Omaha that night, and we loaded the plane the next morning and flew back to Starkville. Probably got back mid-afternoon that day, had the rest of that night to ourselves, so we had about half a day to rest. And the next day we had, starting at 2 or 3 o'clock, we had a parade through the city of Starkville, which is where the university is. So we had probably 30,000 people there all throughout the streets and in the stadium and everything, where we got to celebrate with them a little bit. And then we had a venue that wanted to throw the baseball team a party that night. So we had, you know, we got to invite whoever we wanted. They had bands, DJs, everything else there. So that was a lot of fun. And then as soon as that was over, people were leaving. You know, we were having players get drafted. We were having guys go to summer ball, guys that graduated, that had jobs lined up. So really after that day, we didn't have much of a chance to say goodbye to, you know, some of our teammates we had just spent, like I said, pretty much every day of the year with, 13, 14 hours a day. So they organized a ring ceremony. We got fitted for our rings. They designed them. They organized a ring ceremony, and ironically for me, it was the Kentucky football game day. So it was homecoming, and it was Kentucky football game day, and the game was at 6 o'clock that night. They brought us in to our stadium, family, no friends really, just family and players. And they had a ring ceremony. They handed out all our rings. And they had goodie bags for us with a bunch of different stuff that I guess, I don't know if the NCAA sent it or where they got it all, but we had a goodie bag. We had this shirt. I forgot to tell Coach Sparks and Emily, we were talking about it before, but we had this shirt. It says National Champions on it. We had our ring, obviously, they gave us. We had a watch that says Division I National Championship. We had a Coca-Cola glass bottle that says National Championship. They let us keep the jersey that we wanted in with the national championship patch on it. We got to keep our helmets with the national championship patch on it. We had a baseball in a case signed by everybody on the team that we had signed a few hundred of them before we left to give to donors, and one for each player after the season was over. I guess it's kind of something they do every year. We had a framed picture in front of the stadium in Omaha. We had, let's see, can you think of any? Oh, we had a wallet. They gave us a wallet. No money in it. They gave us a little Division I National Championship coin. Another thing is Adidas is our gear sponsor. As soon as we got back from Omaha, Adidas had us a bag with, they said it was $1,800 worth of gear in it. So that was nice of Adidas. It's nice having a company, you know, that respects you as a team and program, that likes to give back when you accomplish something you've been trying to do all year. So that's kind of the stuff that we got, I guess because we won it as gifts and gear and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely nice when you can end on top and you get to reap all the benefits from being number one.
I've got this question too. During the recruiting process, of course, in your case, it wasn't as prevalent, but did they not, your GPA and your study habits, things like that, especially the GPA, is one of the first things and a continuing thing as in the recruiting process, because if you don't have the grades, you're not going to get the scholarship. So I see all of our student athletes up there in all different sports. Your GPA, which starts when you're a freshman, is one of the most important things about getting a scholarship and moving on. You may be a great player, but if you don't do the work in the classroom, you know you're not going to get to pass on to that level of achievement to get the scholarship. We got one more question up here, Mr. Staley.
Were you playing when the clock hit 0?
I was not. I was not actually in the game when we got the final out. Thank you. But I was not in the game when we got the final out. But come to find out, I was glad. Well, I would like to have been on the field, obviously, but I was at the bottom of the dog pile when we won the Super Regional, and I never want any part of that again. So, I was kind of glad I was kind of one of the last ones out there. I got to jump on top. So.
Ms. Kavanaugh.
Hi, Drew.
Hey.
So I think the teachers here would agree with me that when we ask our students to write, some of them, whether it's an essay or a paper, some of them act like we're asking them to cut their arms off, like it's just brutal. And I don't think they realize that we're trying to prepare them for the next level. So can you tell these students how much writing you do in college?
I took AP Literature and Language while I was here, and I was lucky enough to pass those exams. So I did not have to take the entry-level English classes when I got there. So I kind of got to skip out on that, but I did have to do the writing while I was here, which was a ton. And I had classmates, or teammates, I should say, that had to take those classes. They had papers due every couple weeks. So it's definitely something that you need to be prepared to do. And it's not only papers that you have to turn in. You could be emailing your professor. You need to know that, there's a certain way that you address them, and you be respectful and professional, because most of the times they'll tell you they won't respond if they don't feel like it's a professionally written email. And that's something that you learn in classes here. It's not, like I said, it's not just writing papers and turning in papers and that kind of thing. Although you do have to do plenty of that. You have to know how to write for other reasons. Like I said, emails. There are essay questions that I have a ton of that are not, like I said, turned in papers where they grade your paper. But, being able to professionally answer a written question is something that you have to be able to do in college. And I think that's something that, coming from here, I was very well prepared to do.
We've got time for one more question. Anybody?
I'm going to ask for Tylen, although I think you addressed it, though, but what would be one piece of advice that you would give a student who aspires to go to the next level, go to college, play a sport, and get the academics as well, even if you're not planning on playing a sport? What would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
I'd say definitely the most important thing that you have to do is believe in yourself, and never let someone tell you can't do something. That doesn't just go for athletics. There's obviously going to be people that don't think you can achieve what you want to achieve, say your dreams are a little too big or whatever, but there's no such thing as a dream too big. And that's something that, coming from a small school like this, you have maybe 40 people in your class compared to public schools or bigger schools where you could have a class with 300. You think they have so many more connections, whatever. But like I said, I feel more prepared than a lot of my teammates and classmates that have come from schools like that, coming from here. And, just never sell yourself short and always believe in yourself. And if you have a goal, work as hard as you can. Don't let anybody outwork you to be able to reach that goal.
Okay, thank you, Drew. One last thing. Yesterday, as Drew said, he came in and talked to me. I wish all of you had a chance to sit down with Drew for about an hour. We just kept going on, and it was a tremendous conversation, one that I'll remember the rest of my life, just picking his brain and finding out things that went on. I was here when Drew was here. He is definitely a success story for himself, his parents, and our school, and I really appreciate you coming and doing this. And like I said, I wish you had time to sit down with him, because the scope of what's going on is far greater than what we've reached here. So let's give Drew a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys for having me.